I still remember that electrifying moment as if it were splashed in neon across my soul, the moment I discovered that my wife had used our son's college fund for a lavish trip with her affair partner. In those first 100 heartbeats, every hope I had cherished for our family's future shattered into a storm of disbelief, betrayal, and searing heartache. The very funds we'd painstakingly saved for our son's education, his gateway to a brighter future, were diverted into an escapade of selfish indulgence, leaving me reeling and questioning everything I once believed in. That night, beneath a sky heavy with unspoken sorrow, I vowed that I would no longer allow our dreams to be stolen. For years, my wife and I had built our lives around the promise of securing a good future for our son. Every dollar we set aside, every sacrifice we made, was meant to pave the way for his education and the opportunities that come with it. I had trusted her implicitly with not only my heart but also with our finances, believing that our shared commitment would ensure that our son could one day attend college without worry. We had a plan, a modest yet carefully constructed savings plan, designed to accumulate enough to cover tuition, books, and all the unpredictable costs of higher education. I poured long hours into my work, always thinking that the financial security we built together would guarantee a stable future for our child. I believed our love and commitment would be the foundation of everything we did, that every decision made would serve the greater good of our family. Then, in a moment I can hardly put into words, I learned that this trust had been shattered. I discovered it by accident. A series of bank statements and a misdirected email revealed that a significant sum, earmarked specifically for our son's college fund, had been spent on a luxury trip. The trip was not for business, not for an emergency. It was for pleasure, a vacation organized by her and taken with a man I later learned was her affair partner. The realization hit me like a freight train. My heart sank as I scanned through the transactions, airfare, hotel bookings, extravagant dining bills, all debiting the account that was meant to secure our son's future. In that horrifying moment, I felt a mix of fury, heartbreak, and an overwhelming sense of betrayal. I couldn't believe that the funds for our child's education, which we had worked so hard to save, had been so callously squandered on a reckless escape from our responsibilities. The revelation left me in a state of shock and despair. I sat in our living room, staring blankly at the bank statements spread out on the coffee table, unable to comprehend how someone I had loved and trusted could betray me, and more devastatingly, our son's future, in such a callous manner. The room, once filled with the soft hum of a happy family life, now echoed with the silence of broken promises. I could almost hear the quiet ticking of the clock as each second passed, marking the time we had lost, the opportunities squandered, and the dreams deferred. That night, my mind churned with painful questions. How could she justify such a betrayal? What had driven her to risk everything for a fleeting taste of forbidden freedom? And most painfully of all, what would become of our son, whose future was now uncertain? As the shock began to subside, a cold resolve took hold. I realized that I couldn't let this act of betrayal go unanswered. Not only had she undermined the future we'd so painstakingly planned, but she had also shown a complete disregard for the responsibilities of parenthood and partnership. I knew that something had to change. That night, as I lay awake in the darkness, the anger and sorrow slowly transformed into a fierce determination to reclaim control over my life and, more importantly, to safeguard our son's future. I vowed that I would not be the passive victim of her recklessness. I would confront the betrayal head-on and take the necessary steps to ensure that every sacrifice we had made for our child's education would not be in vain. In the days that followed, I began meticulously reviewing every financial document, every transaction, to piece together the full extent of her deception. I spent long hours poring over statements and cross-referencing dates, creating a detailed timeline of the unauthorized expenditures. Each number, each figure, was a stark reminder of the trust that had been so brutally violated. The more I uncovered, the more I felt a deep, unyielding determination to set things right. I realized that not only was my personal dignity at stake, but also the future of our son, a future I could no longer allow to be compromised by her selfish choices. I reached out to our bank, initiating a formal inquiry into the disputed charges. The process was agonizingly slow and required me to relive the betrayal over and over, but every step reaffirmed my decision to take a stand. I documented every detail, every phone call, every email exchange, ensuring that I had an unassailable record of the financial misappropriation. This wasn't just about recovering lost money, it was about reclaiming the power that had been stripped from me. I felt a grim satisfaction in knowing that I was no longer going to allow my son's future to be collateral damage in her pursuit of fleeting pleasures. At the same time, I began to confront the emotional wreckage that her betrayal had left behind. I sought solace in long walks at night, where the cool air and the steady rhythm of my footsteps helped clear my mind and solidify my resolve. I spent hours in quiet contemplation, questioning not only what had happened but also how I could rebuild my sense of self after such a profound betrayal. I realized that my identity had been intertwined with the promises we made as a family, and that by undermining our collective future, she had also undermined my own sense of worth. But in that dark space, I also discovered a glimmer of hope, a realization that I had the strength to redefine who I was, to rebuild my life from the ruins of broken trust. Every day I made a conscious effort to reassert my own value. I began setting new, ambitious goals for both my career and my personal life. I enrolled in financial planning seminars and sought advice from trusted mentors, determined to create a secure, independent future that would not be vulnerable to another act of betrayal. I started updating my resume and exploring new career opportunities, realizing that my skills and dedication were not defined by someone else's reckless choices. With each step I took toward reclaiming my professional identity, I felt the sting of her actions gradually give way to a burgeoning sense of empowerment. Simultaneously, I reconnected with old friends, those who had always believed in me even when I had doubted myself. In quiet conversations over coffee and long walks through familiar neighborhoods, I recounted my story, and their unwavering support served as a lifeline. They reminded me that my worth was not diminished by her actions, and that the path to healing was paved with resilience and self-belief. Their encouragement helped me to see that while her betrayal had shaken the very foundation of our family, it could not erase the years of hard work, love, and commitment that had built my character. I began to understand that true strength is forged in the crucible of adversity and that the darkest moments can, indeed, be transformed into the brightest opportunities for growth. Throughout this period, I also immersed myself in therapy, where I learned to process the overwhelming emotions that had overtaken me. My therapist guided me through the labyrinth of betrayal, helping me to unpack the layers of hurt and to see that her actions were not a reflection of my inadequacies, but a choice she had made for her own selfish desires. These sessions were painful, yet liberating. They taught me that forgiveness was not about excusing the wrong but about freeing myself from the chains of resentment. With each session, I began to see a path forward, a future where my identity was reclaimed, my value recognized, and my life rebuilt on the foundation of my own unwavering worth. As the weeks turned into months, the resolve I had cultivated began to manifest in every aspect of my life. I started to make concrete plans for the future, a future where the funds meant for our son's education would be recovered, and where my own dreams, long overshadowed by betrayal, would be given the space to flourish. I began exploring new career paths that offered not only better compensation but also an environment of respect and integrity, qualities that had been sorely lacking in our previous life. Every small victory in the professional realm, every positive review, and every step toward financial stability was a building block in the new life I was forging. It was as if I were slowly but surely reclaiming my place in the world, a place where my contributions were valued and my efforts recognized. In these turbulent months, every evening became a time for reflection and planning. I would return home, tired yet determined, and sit by the soft glow of a desk lamp to document the day's progress. I wrote about the setbacks and the breakthroughs alike, capturing the raw, unfiltered truth of my journey. Those journal entries grew into a tapestry of pain, resilience, and hope, a narrative that would, in time, become a guiding light for me and for anyone else who had ever been betrayed. I began to see that my life, though marked by betrayal and loss, was also rich with the possibility of reinvention, a chance to redefine success on my own terms, to build a legacy that honored both the struggles of the past and the promise of the future. In the wake of everything that had happened, I reached a point where the weight of betrayal finally began to transform into something almost unrecognizable, a profound, unwavering determination to reclaim not only my dignity but also the future that was rightfully ours to share. As the months melted into one another after I discovered that my wife had siphoned away our son's college fund for a reckless trip with her affair partner, the shock and devastation slowly gave way to a period of intense introspection and ultimately metamorphosis. I remember the day I confronted the financial nightmare as if it were yesterday. Sitting alone at my desk, the remnants of our once secure future lay before me in the form of bank statements and transaction records. Every number seemed to whisper of lost hopes and squandered dreams. Each sent a painful reminder that our son's education, a promise I had so meticulously built over years of sacrifice, had been violated. In that moment, despair threatened to overwhelm me, but even as tears blurred my vision, a spark of defiance ignited deep within. I realized that if I allowed this betrayal to define the rest of our lives, then the very future we had planned would be ruined. Instead, I would fight, not just to recover the lost funds, but to rebuild our lives from the ashes of deception. With a meticulous determination, I embarked on a mission to untangle the financial chaos. I spent countless hours poring over every detail, rechecking records, consulting with our bank, and even seeking legal advice on how to recoup what had been misappropriated. The process was painstaking, fraught with bureaucratic hurdles and moments when I questioned whether justice would ever prevail. Yet each day as I chipped away at the mountain of evidence, I felt a slow but steady resurgence of hope. I wasn't just reclaiming money, I was reclaiming my voice, my right to trust, and the future we had promised our son. I vowed that every sacrifice we'd made for his education would be honored, and that I would ensure he had the opportunities he deserved, even if it meant standing alone. This financial battle became intertwined with an even more profound internal struggle. I began to sift through the layers of my emotions, confronting the betrayal that had been hidden beneath a veneer of ordinary life. I recalled subtle moments I had once dismissed, a brief pause in her laughter, a fleeting look of guilt when she thought I wasn't watching, an unexplained delay in her return home. All these fragments, when reassembled, formed a clear picture of a relationship built on secrets. The realization that someone I had trusted so implicitly could undermine our future for her own selfish desires was a bitter pill to swallow. But as I sat with that pain night after night, I gradually began to see it as the catalyst for my transformation rather than an insurmountable defeat. I threw myself into therapy, where I met with a compassionate counselor who helped me navigate the storm of emotions raging inside. Each session was a journey into the darkest corners of my heart, where feelings of betrayal, inadequacy, and grief mingled with a burgeoning resolve to redefine who I was. We dissected every moment of our past, analyzing how trust had been eroded and how I had, perhaps unknowingly, allowed small cracks to widen over time. Slowly, I learned that the fault was not solely mine for failing to notice the warning signs, but also hers for choosing to prioritize fleeting pleasure over the promises we had made. With each breakthrough, the raw pain began to lose its paralyzing grip, replaced by a resilient understanding that I had the power to rebuild, not just my finances but my entire identity. As I moved forward, I began to see that my recovery was not just a solitary endeavor. I reached out to a small circle of close friends, people who had always believed in me even when I doubted myself, and shared my story in long, vulnerable conversations that lasted deep into the night. Their support was both humbling and empowering. They reminded me that my worth was not defined by a single act of betrayal, but by the countless moments of perseverance and integrity that had carried me through the years. In these gatherings, we spoke of dreams lost and hopes rekindled, and I began to understand that every setback was, in fact, an opportunity for growth. Their unwavering belief in my ability to overcome adversity became a cornerstone of my recovery, bolstering my resolve to rebuild a future that honored not only our son's right to education but also my own right to live with dignity. In parallel with the emotional and financial rebuilding, I dedicated myself to advancing my career in ways I had never dared before. I immersed myself in professional development, attending industry conferences, enrolling in advanced courses, and actively networking with people who shared my passion for innovation and integrity. I began to see my work not as a series of mundane tasks, but as a platform where I could showcase my true potential and contribute meaningfully to a larger community. Every project I led, every strategy one implemented, became a silent declaration that I was more than the sum of someone else's mistakes. My professional achievements began to pile up, each accolade, each promotion, a testament to the untapped strength I had rediscovered. I was forging a new reputation, one that reflected my resilience and my unwavering commitment to excellence. Slowly, I transformed from a man haunted by betrayal into a visionary leader, recognized for my ability to overcome challenges and to inspire others to rise above their own difficulties. With the passage of time, the pieces of my new life began to fit together more clearly. I restructured my financial portfolio with a precision that was both analytical and personal, ensuring that the money meant for our son's education was not only recovered but reallocated in a way that would safeguard his future. I worked with financial advisors to create a robust plan that emphasized stability and growth, one that was built on the lessons of the past. Every incremental gain in my savings was a step away from the shadow of betrayal, a tangible reminder that I was in control of my destiny. I began to see that the true measure of success was not in how much money I could amass, but in how wisely I could manage the resources that I had fought so hard to protect. As my financial security strengthened, so did my sense of self. I started to redefine what happiness and fulfillment meant to me, no longer tethering my identity to the validation of others. I embraced creative pursuits, writing, painting, even playing the guitar, activities that allowed me to express the complex tapestry of emotions that had accompanied my journey. In the solitude of my study, I poured my heart onto canvas and paper, each stroke and every carefully chosen word a testament to my transformation. My art became a personal sanctuary, a place where I could confront the pain of the past while celebrating the promise of the future. I even began sharing my work with a small audience, finding solace in the understanding that others, too, had known the bitter taste of betrayal and the sweet victory of rising above it. Throughout this period of rebuilding, I never lost sight of my role as a father. Our son, whose future had been compromised by my wife's reckless decisions, remained my constant source of motivation. I made it a priority to shield him from the chaos, to create a home environment filled with stability, love, and unwavering support. I involved him in simple, everyday activities that reaffirmed our bond. A weekend trip to the park, a quiet dinner where we talked about our dreams, or simply spending time together in silence. Each moment with him was a reminder that, despite the betrayals and heartaches, my duty as a parent was sacred, and his future was worth fighting for. I resolved that his education, his well-being, and his happiness would no longer be collateral damage in someone else's selfish pursuit of fleeting pleasures. Instead, I would channel every ounce of my strength into ensuring that he had every opportunity to succeed, free from the uncertainty and instability that had once threatened to consume us. As the months turned into nearly a year, I began to see a tangible shift not only in my own life but also in the world around me. The professional and personal battles I had fought had woven together into a rich tapestry of resilience and renewal. Colleagues who had once looked at me with pity now regarded me with respect, and even distant relatives, who had been complicit in the silent judgment that once hurt so deeply, began to approach me with cautious admiration. I started receiving invitations to speak at industry events, where I shared my story of transformation, how I turned betrayal into a powerful impetus for change. Every time I stood before an audience, I felt a surge of empowerment, a deep, resonant affirmation that I had reclaimed my life and that my journey could serve as a beacon of hope for others. I also began to mentor younger professionals who were struggling with their own challenges, offering them not only strategic advice but also the reassurance that their worth was not defined by the opinions of others. Those mentoring sessions, often held in quiet cafes or during long walks in the park, were filled with raw, honest conversation and a mutual understanding that adversity could be the seed for greatness. The act of giving back, of sharing the hard-won lessons of my journey, brought a profound sense of purpose that helped solidify my identity as not only a survivor but as a leader. At the heart of it all, I learned to embrace the contradictions of my experience. The betrayal that had once threatened to unravel everything had become the catalyst for an extraordinary transformation. I discovered that the pain, though searing and overwhelming at times, had forced me to re-examine every facet of my life, from my professional ambitions to my deepest personal values. I came to understand that sometimes, the darkest moments are the ones that strip away all the pretense and reveal who you truly are. I was a man of quiet strength, a man who had endured heartbreak and emerged not as a victim, but as a warrior armed with the knowledge that my worth was intrinsic and unassailable. In the relentless pursuit of rebuilding my life, I developed a disciplined routine that balanced the demands of my career with the nurturing of my soul. Each morning, I rose before the sun, lacing up my running shoes and venturing out into the serene, early light, a daily ritual that grounded me and reminded me of the continuity of life. These solitary runs, echoing with the rhythmic beat of my own heartbeat, became moments of meditation, where every step forward was a deliberate move away from the pain of the past. I savored those moments of solitude, letting them reinforce the belief that I was capable of charting my own destiny. Evenings, too, became sacred. I dedicated time to reading and writing, immersing myself in books that spoke of resilience, in writing that allowed me to process every fleeting emotion and every lesson learned. I found that the simple act of putting pen to paper was both therapeutic and inspiring, a tangible way to capture the evolution of my thoughts and the growth of my spirit. With every page, I wove together the tapestry of my journey, a narrative of betrayal, recovery, and ultimate rebirth that was as painful as it was beautiful. I began to see that my story was not just about loss, but about the extraordinary capacity of the human spirit to rise above even the deepest wounds. As I moved steadily forward, every new challenge in my professional life became an opportunity to cement the transformation I had undergone. I spearheaded innovative projects that broke new ground, led teams with a quiet confidence, and built a reputation as a visionary, someone who had turned adversity into the stepping stones for success. My hard work culminated in measurable achievements, significant business growth, improved profitability, and a renewed sense of trust from those who once doubted my capabilities. Every upward tick in performance metrics was a testament to my determination, a silent affirmation that I was indeed capable of becoming everything I had always believed I could be. In the midst of these professional triumphs, I also began to see a profound change in the dynamics of my personal relationships. The betrayal that had once severed the bonds of trust was slowly being replaced by a network of genuine connections. Friends who had stood by me in my darkest hours began to celebrate my successes with heartfelt enthusiasm, and even estranged family members who had once shared in my sorrow started to offer quiet words of support. I learned to value those relationships that were based on mutual respect and authentic care, and I distanced myself from the toxic influences that had contributed to my earlier pain. In these moments of reconnection, I discovered that the strength of the human spirit is often magnified by the love and support of those who believe in you. As the year drew to a close, the culmination of my efforts became undeniable. I had not only rebuilt my career and restructured my finances but had also forged a new identity, one defined by resilience, independence, and an unwavering commitment to my own dreams. I stood at the threshold of a future that was unburdened by the betrayals of the past, ready to embrace opportunities that promised growth and fulfillment. My journey had taught me that while the scars of betrayal might remain, they need not define you. Instead, they could be transformed into emblems of strength, each mark a reminder of the battles fought and the victories earned. In the final moments of that transformative period, as I sat quietly in my study reviewing the detailed plans for my future, I felt an overwhelming sense of accomplishment and clarity. Every painful memory, every tear shed in solitude, had contributed to the person I was now, a man who had turned betrayal into the impetus for a rebirth so profound that even the echoes of the past seemed to fade in the light of my newfound resolve. I had learned that true growth comes from embracing both the pain and the beauty of life, and that the path to self-discovery is paved with the courage to face the darkest parts of your soul. I began drafting a manifesto, a declaration of my journey and a blueprint for the future. In that long, contemplative process, I outlined my vision for not just a successful career, but a life of purpose and authenticity. I set ambitious goals for expanding my business ventures, for mentoring others who had faced similar betrayals, and for creating a legacy that would stand as a testament to the power of resilience. I envisioned workshops, public talks, and even a book that would detail every twist and turn of my transformation, a narrative meant to inspire anyone who had ever felt diminished by the actions of someone they loved. That manifesto became my North Star. With each day that passed, I revisited its words, letting them fuel my ambition and guide my decisions. I was determined that my future would not be defined by someone else's shallow standards but by the limitless potential I had discovered within myself. I restructured my daily routine, making room for both rigorous professional endeavors and moments of quiet reflection, so that every facet of my life would contribute to the legacy I was building. Now, as I stand on the brink of this new era, a future shaped by my own unwavering resolve, I feel a deep, unyielding gratitude for the journey I have endured. The betrayal that once threatened to shatter me has become the very force that propelled me to heights I never thought possible. I have reclaimed my self-worth, rebuilt my career, and redefined my financial future, all while nurturing a personal life filled with authentic relationships and creative expression. I am not the same man I once was. I am a man transformed by adversity, a man who has risen above heartbreak to create a legacy of resilience, innovation, and hope. Every challenge I have faced has been a stepping stone toward a future that is bright and boundless. I now see that true success is not measured by the opinions of those who once doubted you, but by the strength with which you rise after every fall. As I prepare to take the next bold steps in my journey, I do so with a heart full of gratitude and a mind sharpened by the lessons of the past. I am ready to lead, to inspire, and to build a legacy that will stand as a testament to the indomitable power of the human spirit. With every determined step I take, I reaffirm that my destiny is mine to create, and no betrayal, no matter how deep, can ever diminish the light of my ambition.